Hello, and welcome to Lexi Loves Studio. This video was meant to be played in the background while you draw or paint, or whatever it is you like to do for art, whatever creative things you like doing. So sit back, relax, and get into it. Take out your pencils, your paintbrushes, and let's go. As you can see, I am a big fan of the digital circus, and I was especially fond of this last episode that came out. Episode 8, I believe. This drawing was, of course, inspired by that scene where Kane starts going crazy and starts, I guess, torturing the circus members. That sounds a little weird. I don't know if some of you haven't seen the show. I promise it's a very good show. I'm probably freaking you out a little bit, but it's very silly. It's very funny. He just kind of went crazy in the last episode, which is a very cool scene. I thought it was interesting because it was so visually complicated. Like, Kane grew like 6 arms and was, in reality, it was breaking down in the background. There was glitching and screaming. It was just super cool. And I really applaud the animators for that scene, thinking about the show from an artistic perspective. A lot of those scenes and lighting, they were just very difficult, so I applaud the animators for that. I want to say I went back and looked at the first few episodes, and my goodness, the quality's increased so much since the first episode. Like, these last few were like super beautiful at times, and the lighting and the shading, they just look so different from the very first one. I don't know if you've seen that video with the side-by-side episode 1 and this last one. You can really tell the budgeting and effort difference. And on top of that, it's just, a super silly show. There's so many random moments that crack me up. I rewatched episode 1, and that one line that, "Oh, Bubble, you always know how to make me say this exact sentence." It's just silly. And I've been going down the rabbit hole, watching all the theory videos and trying to figure out the ending. I really think Bubble has something to do with it, because he was really provoking Kane in the last episode, which really shocked me. You were always the lesser of the two. I wasn't really expecting that character to do something like that. You know what was crazy? That scene where everyone was like being tortured and they showed Jax being skinned. That was such a graphic scene. I really didn't think the studio would do something like that. I don't know why that caught me off so guard. I don't know why that caught me off so off guard. Oh my goodness. I don't know what was up with Gangle getting run over by those trucks. First in the restaurant episode, and then again with this last one. Who knows? Maybe they're all like terminally ill, and this is like a life-saving incubator, and this is to help stimulate their minds so they don't go crazy. But then everybody eventually goes crazy anyways. I know Kinger said that Scratch was the one who like invented the circus, or rather helped him make it, and that he had a tumor in his head, so maybe that works in with that theory. And I don't even know what they're gonna do for like the last episode. How would you escape? Because I think the leading theory right now is that they're all just brain scans, and if you zoom into one of the clips at the end of episode 8, you just see a file called like circus brain scans. So that begs the question, can they even leave the circus? And it was all developed to create like an AI or train an AI. Like, what was Kinger's goal? Because he helped make Abel, right? What were their goals with making that AI? Like, what was he actually used for? Just so many questions. I remember showing my friend the show like a week ago. After every episode, I'd ask him what were his thoughts, and he usually just said, "Well, now I've got a lot of questions." And every episode after that. It was like, oh yeah, now I have even more questions, and that really encapsulates the whole series. Really makes it feel like Gravity Falls. I remember watching that bunker episode when it first aired, just waiting for the next one to come out. We had so many questions about what was going on. My brother and my sister were just like talking to each other, like, oh, but then who's the author if it wasn't a shapeshifter? And then my cousin was there and he was like, you know that show's being canceled, right? And we were like, what? This can't be. And then he showed us, I think it might have been like a tweet or something, or maybe a statement by Disney. They're like, yep, Gravity Falls is ending. That was a good summer. Then after that, we watched the last episode at a friend's house a few months later. Because I think after that, it's like there was the election and then the mayor election. Yeah, I forgot. But I just remember walking into the room and the Mystery Shack got turned into a robot and they were playing a metal version of the theme song in the background. It was just super cool. In this next drawing, I thought it'd be an interesting effect if I drew some characters with like a real background. Kind of like, I don't know if you've ever seen a Roger Rabbit, or maybe even those like clay Pokemon cards where they make Pokemon out of clay and they put them in nature and they take pictures of them. I used to have a few of those cards. I thought they were super cool and stylized. And I do take those pictures, my own pictures. They are real trees, real mushrooms that I saw. I took this one up in Washington when my family went to go visit my cousin who lives up there. Same cousin who's told us about the Gravity Falls. I gotta say, it was really beautiful up there in the Pacific Northwest. Very rainy though. It rained like every day the entire week we visited. But I still do definitely recommend visiting if you ever do get the chance. As you can see, there's a small trend going on here, deviating away from Digital Circus. I've had a slight hyperfixation on this character for a while now. The infamous Chikawa and his friends. It's just a cute little character. That's literally what his name translates to. Tiny cute thing. Chisai means small in Japanese, and kawaii, Chikawa. I thought I'd draw something for the spring since, you know, it is April and we've been getting those April showers outside. And it's been raining it just really heavily every day, which I've really enjoyed. But you know, I got all my shoes and socks wet, so just waiting for those to dry out now. This last drawing is one of my favorite. I mean, everything I've drawn so far I really enjoy. I'm gonna have at least one of these on my wall at some point, or like one of each of them on my wall at some point. But this one was a little different because I tried like imitating a painting because I was inspired by that one painting, the dogs playing poker, which is a very silly concept. A bunch of dogs drinking scotch and gambling and smoking. I thought it would really work well with the vibe and aesthetic of the Digital Circus. The real challenge here was not relying on line art, which I'd never done before digitally. I've always painted a lot before, which, you know, that doesn't have line art necessarily. But you know, digitally it just seems more convenient with lines, you know, with the fill tool and all that. I do have to say though, this style looks very nice and I'll be using it a lot in the future. But this is probably my best work right now. it was very interesting trying to imitate, I guess, brush strokes and the dynamic lighting on all the characters. It was really fun having the challenge of not drawing with like basic line structure. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not particularly great at drawing wooden mannequins or like humanoid like shapes or creatures. I mostly draw like small characters or backgrounds, you know, like buildings and stuff. So this was a good practice for me, especially with the way that the mannequins are shaded, you know, with all their different angles. Like you can see the two different angles on their face and the legs and the joints. They all had different colors and shading, which is kind of difficult, but you know, you get some guides and you find some videos online. It's pretty easy. Or just go on Pinterest. It's my #1 tool right now, is just looking at references on Pinterest. You have to be careful though, there's a lot of AI out there, the kind of AI you don't really want. Which is really the comment that this show has on AI. I think that's really smart of them to go into that sort of area, especially right now for artists. But that's all for me for now. If you did like any of the works you saw today, I do have an Etsy setup in case, you know, you'd want to own one of these prints. I don't think all of them are there yet, but eventually they'll all be listed there. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!